Welcome to Buckets, coming to you on a Saturday morning from the Tommy John Home Studios. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by Brandon Kravitz. Brandon's going to help us figure out who to bet in Game 4 of Cavs Pacers and Nuggets Thunder. Should be two great games. I'll be at Nuggets Thunder in the afternoon. I do like that they're spacing these games out, so you gotta get like a little bit of a break in the middle. That'll be nice, even though my entire Sunday is waxed because it's like I get up at 10, Brandon. I'll have to get up at 9. I'll have to leave at 10 for pregame at 11:30 because Denver is a nightmarish hellscape of traffic. And then I'll be there, pregame at like 11:45, game at 1:30. That will take until 4 o'clock Mountain Time. Nikola Jokic will see us sometime after 6 because he hates us. And then I will drive home and it'll be like 7:30 or 8. So that is a little bit of a glimpse into my life as a sports writer. Now, if you're asking me, like, are you complaining? The answer is no, because game 3 was fucking awesome. It was incredible. Being at those games is such a privilege. Jamal Murray has had better individual performances in terms of a 30-point triple-double in the NBA Finals versus the Miami Heat. He averaged 30 on 50, 40, 90 versus the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2023 Western Conference Finals. He's gotten for 2 50 balls versus the Utah Jazz in the bubble. He's had better individual games, but relative to the competition and defense that he faced, I do not know if I know a tougher, better Jamal Murray game than game 3, where Nikola Jokic couldn't do anything, was completely in his head. And he absolutely delivered in the biggest way Jamal Murray did. So phenomenal game. That was really awesome to be at, Brandon.
I would imagine. I've never been to Ball Arena, but it seems like a pretty electric atmosphere, and I think it's important to point out exactly what you pointed out. Just speaking about the realities of what goes into covering these teams that's exactly what it is. It's not complaining. We would not give up these jobs for anything, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of work and time that goes into it. This is one thing I don't envy yet, being somebody on the east side of the country covering the Orlando Magic, is that this is the nice part about not having a great team that's in your backyard, because then you don't have to worry about Christmas. You don't have to worry about May and June, and you can just sit back and relax and try and handicap these games. But as far as Jamal Murray goes, it is incredible how we always sort of write this guy off a little bit too early. Like, his best days are behind him. I don't know that he's going to give you those heroic performances, and they just pop up at the exact right times. Championship DNA is probably overused in sports, but my God, is Denver showing a lot of that. Between Murray, Aaron Gordon has come up huge in these moments, and we can no longer say that Nikola Jokic has anything less than a great supporting cast, because these guys have really stepped up, not just in this series, but also going back to what they did against the Clippers.
Yeah. For series price updates at DraftKings, Cavaliers Pacers, after the Cavs get a dominant win with all their guys back, I took a complete beating on that because I was anticipating. I was like, well, they're not all going to come back, but maybe 2 of them will go. And then it was like, nope, all hands on deck, can't lose this game. Garland toughed it out. Thought Mobley was actually the most impactful player that came back for them, and they got great performances from a lot of guys, including Max Strus. Cavs Pacers, the current price is Cavs minus 150. They're back to being favored. I make them minus 109. Pacers are plus 125. I make them plus 109. So I have this as like, I have the edge on the Pacers here. And in particular, I have value on Pacers in 6, which I think I will probably bet, because I make Pacers in 6 only 297, and the market price is 400. So I'm probably going to bet Pacers in 6 here, as you'll see that logged in the Action Network app. I was on Pacers heavy, and that sucks. I had a terrible Cavs Pacers game. Did well in the late game, but unfortunately I had fewer units on it. Nuggets Thunder, market price right now is Thunder minus 210 still, despite the Nuggets being up 2-1, which tells you what the power rating is for the Thunder. I do have the Thunder still favored. They're minus 145. I have Nuggets plus 145 versus a plus 175 with a hold number, and I find that to be too extreme. But here's the problem: is like the only outcome that I see is having a lot of value here right now is Denver 4-1, and I am not betting the Nuggets to beat them two more straight times. That is not a thing I'm doing.
That would be extreme. I
yeah,
am heavily considering taking the Oklahoma City Thunder to win in 7 at plus 165 is where I see it.
That's a pretty smart idea. You wanted to talk a little bit about that because you've got like an angle from that perspective. Go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the way that this series is going right now, this has 7 games written all over it. Denver is not going to go away quietly. They already have a 2-1 lead. I still don't think that their top gear, though, is as good as the Thunder's top gear. And what we're seeing is that it's tough to maintain the absolute best version of yourself game after game. These guys expend so much energy defensively, slowing each other down. I thought that was the biggest difference last night was Denver just put the clamps down on OKC. Well, it's going to be tough for them to do that again. You know, you only have these 1-day breaks in between. I thought about taking the series to end in 7 because I respect the hell out of Denver. I really don't want to bet against the Nuggets right now. I don't have a bet on this series yet. I've been betting game to game. OKC net rating wise and just them when they're at their best, I think they are far and away better than every other team that's left in the playoffs right now. So I do think this series is going to go to 7. I don't want to fade the Denver Nuggets, but if we got to a game 7, that OKC is going to be what a 10-point favorite in that game. So you might as well just take OKC. So just looking at this numbers wise, I think OKC in 7 is the smartest bet. And if I don't have a good feeling for the inexperience of the Oklahoma City Thunder, then an opportunity to hedge out will present itself. Is that I forget to look back at what the line was. Was it around? I think it was around 9.5, 10 when OKC was at home in this series.
So game 1, if we reset everything and we go back to the beginning, let's go back to the start, as Coldplay might have sung. It was the closing line was Thunder minus 10.5. It opened 9.5. They got bet to 10.5 because it was a great spot to bet OKC, and Denver just like, nope, we're tougher. The key here is that the opening money line was plus 330. There's just no way for the book, for the odds maker, with whoever originates this line, for them to adjust power rating enough off of a 7-game series. Like if you made a massive adjustment on this, I mean a massive adjustment for them for your season long and playoff rating, power rating, which you're not going to, because OKC, if they get to a game 7, they have won at least one more blowout game. So your overall numbers are still going to be like, no, this other team's way better. They're still like 7 points better. But let's say that they adjust it all the way down. The worst price I could see you possibly getting is plus 250 on Denver for a hedge, right? So if you take that price at almost even money for them to go over, what's the number for Denver for Thunder in 7?
Thunder in 7 is plus 165.
Okay, you get plus 165. You will get plus 1, plus 2, whatever on Denver to set yourself up and guarantee a profit. As long as you can feel confident that the Nuggets can win one more game and that the Thunder will not get beat in 5 or 6.
I feel uber confident that Denver is winning one more game in this series. They have none of this is fluky, what Denver is doing, and all they really need to do is be in these games late. It feels like OKC's path is blowout, and if they're not able to do that, if this is a close game, this is the same thing, by the way, that the Celtics are dealing with the New York Knicks. They don't want to be in a close game with this team under 3 minutes because they're going to lose.
Yeah,
and it feels like that's what's happening with OKC. We saw everything shrinks. You play in a phone booth in the last couple of minutes of these games, and every possession means so much. So the ball ends up in the hands of your best players. Shea is a worthy MVP. This is not an MVP discussion. But in the last couple of minutes of the game, I trust Jokic way more to make the right decision, to hit the big shot, or to defer to the right teammate. I think you can. Denver showed they can bottle up Shea, and there's not anybody else that really scares them as far as in that situation. Throughout the game, J-Dub, different story. Chet, different story, but we're talking about the last 2 minutes of the game. It's Shea or nothing, and I think Denver at this point is confident in saying, Jokic can probably beat you, but if he doesn't, Jamal Murray can, Aaron Gordon can. We'll let Michael Porter Jr. take a shot. It's just a different dynamic with that basketball team. So that's what makes me so confident, because I don't think OKC is going to be able to blow them out for the rest of the series.
This is where I will maybe get too confident. I looked at this market because, so to dive a little bit more into the nitty gritty here, Denver plus 1.5 at DK right now is minus 225. I make it minus 279. So I've got about 50 cents of value on Denver to win one more game in this series. Okay. The thing is that, spoiler for best bets, I'm going to be on OKC in game 4. So this is a 2-2 series going back to OKC. The most likely outcome, if I combine what my numbers suggest and what I feel is going to happen based off of series flow, is OKC game 5 or game 4, OKC game 5. And now all of a sudden it's, oh man, Thunder answered the bell. They went down 2-1, but now they got a chance to close it out at home. Denver wins in game 6 and forces the game 7. That to me is the most likely of all these things. The exact outcome bet of OKC in game 4, OKC in game 5, Denver in game 6, and OKC game 7 is plus 450. Track the app. I don't know if I'm going to bet that, but that sings to me. And that's not that, look, I thought the Nuggets were going to, here's what I thought was going to happen. The Nuggets were going to get blown out in game 1 and win a close game 2. And they flipped it because they came in after that game 7. They rode the adrenaline and won that. And then they got eradicated because they were exhausted in game 2.
Well, and that game 7 trend got obliterated in this second round. It really hurt all of us. Yeah.
Annihilated.
I know we were all in on that too.
A lot of the tried and true ones have just gone absolutely have gotten beaten to snot.
Game 7, home teams have sucked so far. Mm-hmm. So you really have to adjust this. I think you have to adjust your thinking. Home court means nothing right now. It really feels like it means nothing.
I've had to down. I started out, so I did some research to develop this number. And based off of historical trends and market data, as a mix of that, based on the research that I did, I came up with a home court value of 4. And I was kind of like, you know what? Based on historic trends, that feels heavy to me, but that to me seems like it's at least in line with the historic values. And the problem is just but that's not where we are, Matt. We are, and this is across sports. And I wonder, this is something for me to really work on. I'm going to get with Stuckey and do some research on this, or maybe Evan Abrams at Action this summer, because we've seen it in NFL too, where home field advantage is just not what it used to be.
Yeah, it's not 3 points anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been 3 points for a while. It went from 3 to 2. Last season, there were extremely smart people that I listened to in the betting space, way smarter than me, that made it a point, if that. And that's crazy, but it's also kind of where we are. So I think it's an interesting question going forward. All right, let's do some best bets.
Do you have a theory on that before we your first question to Stuckey or whoever you talk to will be what?
Yeah, so here's what I think is I would actually want to talk to team people first, and this would be the first answer. If over the course, so there's been so many advancements because teams are making more money than ever. And so they're allocating more resources than ever to research and player services. So if you look at it and if you're as a team are well, okay, so we're all at this disadvantage on the road. How do we mitigate that? How do we mitigate the road thing? And what they've done is it's not only private planes, better private planes, way more treatment, way more adjustment things after travel. Like they've done all this research that they don't talk about because it's all proprietary, combined with the awareness principle of just knowing like, hey, this is a harder game. Like, yeah, we're supposed to lose this game. Get up for it. The travel schedules have changed. Like teams don't fly in the night before anymore. They give their guys as much time as possible to not be in the air before a game. All of those kind of principles I think are in play. It's one of the reasons why I think Denver's home court advantage has sustained is if you fly in 2 days before, you still do not feel good if you are not from altitude. Same thing with Utah. So that to me is like a big deal here. I think that there have been so many advancements in the research done on how to combat road fatigue. And that to me, I think has been the big differential. I don't think it's like about team strength. I don't think it's about I think it's mostly about these teams have found ways to combat the inequities that being on the road creates. I don't know that like the real question here is like why aren't the crowds more disruptive? That's the question that I don't understand. And like the Vikings home field advantage has sustained, but also it's like if you talk about like the best crowds in the NFL, and they're all really awesome, but like Kansas City's got an elite home crowd in terms of how loud they are. It's always been their MO. They don't have that big of a home field advantage compared to some of these other places. So it's to me that it has to be something on the team side that they're doing to combat the problems that rise when you're on the road.
Yeah, and that I do think a lot of that comes down to evolution of just learning how to prepare yourself. You can pump in crowd noise to your indoor practice facility and these things that didn't necessarily exist in the past. The NFL and the NBA are so different, though. I have a hard time cross-wiring those two in terms of thinking about theoretically what this means, because crowd noise directly impacts a road team's ability to communicate. It's not really a thing in the NBA because there's just constant noise. I do think that we are still seeing home teams early in games. Like if you still like home teams and backing them in the first quarter, it seems like, without looking at the numbers, just off of gut feel, that we're seeing home teams come out of the gates faster, and then things tend to settle down, and the away crowd for the road team is just a non-factor later in games. It's something worth looking into.
Yeah, I'll love to talk about it more in the summer. All right, let's do best bets for Sunday in the association. We have 2 games, as we do throughout the duration of the rest of this round. The Denver Nuggets are 6-point home dogs. This open 5.5. It's already been bet to 6. This is getting steamed heavily right now. You can still get, as we're recording this on Saturday morning, live at youtube.com/the Action Network, you can get a +6 on Denver at -108, but this is heading towards 6.5. I would not be surprised if this closed 6.5 or 7. Total 227. It's up from 222 at open. The over got absolutely obliterated overnight. Thunder are -225. Nuggets +210 on the money line. Cavaliers, Pacers in the night game, with the Cavaliers are 4.5-point road favorites after their beatdown of the Pacers in game 3. Pacers +5, and there's a 5.5 you can still get at Bet Rivers. Total open 230.5. It stayed stable. No movement on the over or under. It's 230.5 still in the market. Pacers are +175 home dogs at Bet 365. Brandon, what are your best bets for Saturday in the association?
So I was on the Cavs. I got them at -3.5 ahead of game 3. I hit that good number. That has obviously run away now after a blowout win. So I don't want to get caught with my hand in the cookie jar here. I would say if you have to bet a side, I still think the Cavs are that side. But most of my money is tied up in this series simply going over 5.5 games. That was a bet that I made after the Pacers took the first 2. Pretty confident that the Cavs would get 2 themselves. I also took a small bet, half a unit on the Pacers to win in 6. So I'm right there with you. Ideal finish in this series for me is the Pacers win in 6. And then I hit both of those bets, the series over 5.5 games and the Pacers in 6. So I feel invested enough that I'm not going to take a side here. I do want the Cavs to win this game for the bet purposes, but Tyrese Halliburton over 17.5 points. That has been placed in a bounce back for him. Donovan Mitchell over 10.5 field goals at plus 110. You're getting that at plus money. I think that's huge. And Ty Jerome, another bad game for him, under 9.5 points. That's the. Do you want me to give the whole slate or just those?
Keep going. Give me the whole slate.
Thunder minus 5.5 and Russell Westbrook over 10.5 points in the later game. Or actually, that's the early game. Just kidding.
Okay. Let's talk the early game. Let's do Nuggets Thunder first. I'm on Thunder minus 5.5. With Kravitz on this 100%. I'm also on. I'm going to be on MPJ under 12.5 points. Those are going to be my two for this one. Let me get the MPJ cap real quick. So this is something I actually can provide a little bit more detail than what you will find in most places on this. So MPJ talked to us last night at the arena, and what he said was they are giving him lidocaine as an injection. This is not uncommon. There's nothing like nefarious going on. Players get these shots all the time. This is how whenever you're like, how did he play? This is how it's like they give him injections. He can't take it every game. You're supposed to spread it out. MPJ sped up that process and was like, I want this one for this one to try and go, because he struggled in games 1 and 2. And knew how important game 3 was. They went all out for this one, and they got it. He has rejected again, completely legal under NBA rules, steroid injection. So he's not taking that. And when the shot fades off, that's why he looks the way he does. He looked great in game 7 versus the Clippers. He looked bad in game 1 and game 2 versus the Thunder. He's going to look much worse in game 3. The Thunder, on the other hand, the Thunder decided, this is one of the things I love in these series. Okay, so you found something that worked, and it was, let's send multiple defenders to Jokic and cut off the head of the snake. And if Jokic can't score and Jokic can't pass and Jokic is turning the ball over, they can't function. That's how dependent they are. That was their gamble in game 3, was they started it in game 2, but they went the full way in game 3, because in game 2, they were still staying home on MPJ. They stopped in game 3. They were like, screw it. Anybody else is going to have to beat us. And the other guys did. Aaron Gordon, MPJ, and Jamal Murray stepped up and beat them. They are going to rebalance that. And now they're going to be like, all right, we got a little too lax on sending help off of MPJ. Let's stay home a little bit more. Let's recover a little bit more. Let's take one less. The Thunder are so good at recovery on these situations that they're able to help down and recover in most situations. And MPJ honestly just fired over them. He's not going to feel as good. He's not going to be in as much of a position to shoot. And so I'm definitely taking the under on MPJ 12.5 points. He's probably going to struggle in this game. So that's probably my favorite bet for tomorrow is MPJ under 12.5. Now, and he can just tough this out and make 5 3.
I mean, well, and that's possible, of course. So no bet is guaranteed. He averaged 18 points per game on the season, just scored 21, as you mentioned. I love the drug cap, by the way. You don't hear that a lot on betting shows or anywhere. So that is unique. You're right about that. There are going to be a lot of people firing away on the over because that number is so palatable. 12.5. Like, it doesn't even take much to get there. But so sharp to look at it in that direction. I might have to tell you on that, because that sounds like that's some inside information that you're just not going to get many places. And those are the kind of little angles that you have to find if you want to win bets over time.
I like Thunder here. I just think, look, the Nuggets are not going to win a game by 15. They won't win a single game by like more than 15 points. Now, I was very confident in them losing game 1, and they did. So they won that game. So, but I have had a pretty good feel for the series, and I thought game 3 was their best shot. That's why I was on Denver plus 5.5 on best bets here on buckets. I thought Denver was like, game 3 is going to be the one. It's that first home game in a series. The energy is just through the roof. This is an early start. It's a home start, so that's better for the home team. But OKC is just probably going to respond and execute a lot better and get a lot more threes. I think both teams are going to be exhausted. Like I lean a little bit toward the under here, especially with where this number has been jacked up to. I may have a play on the under if I go back through and I like more of the defensive stuff when I do film today because I haven't had time because I got back at 2 a.m. last night. I just think that OKC is likely to, every time that they lose, they will ramp back up and really kind of respond. And so I think it's very likely that they are going to win this game by margin. It is like Thunder minus 10.5 is more likely to me than Denver minus 2.5. And that's obvious. I mean, the spread obviously indicates that, but it's also just, look, I do not think. Now, here's what's interesting is I made Denver in game 3 a 3-point dog. It was 5.5. Now it's 6. The question I have to do here is, all right, you can't cap these things in a vacuum. You have to adjust for it. The team just lost. They're desperate. They don't want to go down 3-1. There were outlier performances in whatever facet you want to kind of equate. Now, I don't know how many of the Thunder outcomes in game 3 were outliers. Like Lou Dort missing threes was part of the conversation I had about OKC all year. Is they're going to have to knock down these high leverage shots, and they're probably not going to. Isaiah Hartenstein missing floaters was like, he's a little bit more steady, but he even really hasn't been in a game this big. And Joker did get a lot better, even though Joker was terrible yesterday in recovery and hedge back to him. I don't know if Jokic is going to have this big bounce back game. He might, but I don't know if he's going to have a big bounce back game here. They're sending so much help and confusing him so much and tearing the ball away from him so consistently when he's already tired that I am not confident that this is like I will not be on, and I would advise against Jokic bounce back props. He can hit. I just would advise against it given how this game flow has been. So I lean towards under, but Thunder minus 5.5 because I think that this is a game where their intensity ramps up. They get a lot of points off of turnovers like they did in game 2, and they're able to get the separation. Why do you like the Thunder in this spot?
Yeah, and on the Jokic front, 2 of the last 3 games, he has been a monster on the boards. I'm debating taking the over on 13.5. There's just been that one game 2 in the blowout where things went awry, but that's one that I don't think OKC has much of an answer for. So if you just, I kind of wish I had played it every game, but that's what I might get back on. I think, first of all, laddering this is not the worst idea in the world because I'm with you. I don't really see a scenario where the Thunder actually win this game by 6 or 7. It feels like either they're going to win by 10 or Denver's going to steal another one. I see -9 out there at plus 140. I might have to put a couple of bucks on that as well. But the zigzag is strong in this series. I think each team, we've both seen we haven't gotten there yet, but it feels like you're going to have the road team take a game on the opposing team's home floor, and that's just the most logical outcome. It's starting to feel like OKC has to rout Denver in order to win. As I mentioned earlier, their late game execution in tight games has not been nearly as effective as Denver's. Call it talent, call it experience, call it Jokic, whatever. OKC has to throttle up either early in the game or at the start of the second half. They cannot go blow for blow in the final couple of minutes. I do think buying into that 3-point shooting variance here is part of the reason why you want to be on OKC. They shot 26% from deep in game 3, just the second time this postseason that they've dipped below 30%. So you're right in that, this was their 3-point shooting, which is a little bit shaky in these sort of situations, at some point was going to come back to bite them. I still think these guys are good enough 3-point shooters where it's not going to bite them 2 games in a row. And if they get back on track and they're shooting closer to 35% from deep, then in a game where they feel like they have to bounce back, they'll throttle up. And I think they end up winning this game by double digits.
I'm going to be back on Jalen Williams over 4.5 assists. I cannot believe I did not play that in this game. I cannot believe I did not play that in this game. Honestly, I'm doing so much content that I forget bets. Like I wasn't on Matherin yesterday, and that really annoyed me. We'll talk about that in a second. That I forgot to get in on Matherin. Bet Rivers, Draft Caesars has Jalen Williams over 4.5 assists -150. if you play Prize Picks, you can get better numbers. If you play Underdog, you can get better numbers as well. So check those out. If you play those games, if you're doing the standard bet, actually the best one, okay. ESPN has it 5.5 plus 120. I think I'd still rather take the 4.5 and lay the juice at minus 150 at Caesars. So that's my that's another best bet for me is Jalen Williams over 4.5.
Because he does finish with exactly 5 quite often. So I think that's an important distinction there.
Before we do Pacers and Cavs, I want to talk about, so if you're listening to this on the podcast version, the game has probably already started. So you can skip ahead a little bit, but we're over here at youtube.com/The Action Network, Buckets Live. Stop Geoengineering has a really good play that I wanted to talk about for Celtics Knicks today, which starts here in just a couple hours. It's Pritchard 2+ rebounds, Horford 1+ threes, Drew 6+ assists or points. That's minus 110. So Pritchard 2+ boards, Horford 1+ threes, Drew 6+ points. He says calling these the quote do less work parlays. They all cash at 90% rate if these guys get their assumed minutes based on season averages. And I actually think this, like, because I like this so much as a Boston bounce back spot and for them to put the pressure on much like the Cavs did, then I have to like this as well. They will not give you the 2+ boards at DraftKings. If you bump it to 3 for Pritchard and 1+ Horford 3 and 6+ Holiday points, it's plus 184. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I like that. Good. And I think anytime you can name a parlay, I'm on board with it. So that's usually I don't have the graph in front of me to show it, but I'm pretty sure that named parlays hit at least 65%.
Yeah. Maurice Walker today likes Tatum rebounds, which I don't hate either. We're basically like all Boston plays. I'm never going to be like, ooh. So that's that play as well. We'll see. If you're listening to this and it's like the Knicks trounced them and everyone sucked, then, hey, you can look back and have a chuckle. Let's do Pacers versus Cavaliers game 4.
So I had one more for the for Denver.
Oh, Russ. Okay, yeah, hit me through the Russ cap.
Yeah, let's talk Russ, because this number has fallen. That's like off the cliff. The books bumped this down 3 points from game 3. This was at 13.5. Mind you, I was on the over. It was a little rich, but I took the bait, admittedly. But this is an overreaction to an 8-point outing. His minutes have stayed consistent throughout the postseason, hovering around 25 per game. He flew over this total in the first 2 games of this series, and he's scored 10 or more, or he's only scored 10 or less, rather, twice now in the postseason. So we're rocking at 80% to the over in the postseason, 73% to the over his last 15 games, and 64% to the over on the season. So that is good enough for me. Russ over 10.5 points scored.
I will look at it. I would say this is actually a great cap if we parlay it with the MPJ under. Because if MPJ doesn't have it because he's hurting, Russ is going to play more. This is the entire thing, is Russ plays when MPJ can't go. So there's like a high correlation factor there. So I'm probably going to put like a little bit on MPJ under, Russ over.
Okay, well, then we have to name it. Let's call it the Lidocaine parlay. We do
the Lidocaine parlay.
Okay.
Poor Mike. Mike's in so much pain. He got hit. He took a fall and landed on that shoulder yesterday. And like all of us just like you could see how much pain he was in. Just awful. Dude is toughing it out. They told him it was supposed to be a 4 to 6 week return from injury. And he was like, I'm not doing that. I'm playing. Tough guy, man. Tough. I got a lot of respect for MPJ. Tough as nails, man. All right, Cavs Pacers. Look, I bet Pacers based off of an incorrect injury projection. The Cavs got the game that they needed, but now I'm just like, this feels like an overreaction the other way now, where it's like, oh, the Cavs are going to get back in the series and win 2 straight. It's not going to be a big play for me in terms of unit size, but I'm going to do Indy +6 here. I look at how badly the Pacers played in that game, And it wasn't that the Cavs didn't play great. They did. Atkinson made a lot of the adjustments that we talked about on buckets that I then bet against. This is always the problem, is like, do you bet on what you think the coach should do, or what you think he will do, or how do you know what he will do? And Atkinson made he pushed all the right buttons. He pushes Sam Merrill to the end of the rotation, and Merrill was great in this game. Like, he really was. Like, he was great in this game. He was a plus 14, and gave them really good minutes in this contest. He was actually a plus 18, but he was only 1 of 5. And he only played 20 minutes in this game, and instead they got 20 minutes from Ty Jerome, and he was minus 14. But I thought the minutes with Ty Jerome with DeAndre Hunter rather, were way better, as he was talking about. Ty Jerome was a nightmare. And somebody asked, like, is there a Ty Jerome bounce back game coming? Well, Brandon's got thoughts on that in a second. But they got 8 of 12 from 3 from Max Strus. They got 8 of 12 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3 from Max Strus. They got 40 ball from Donovan Mitchell. Donovan can do that again. This is a good matchup for him. I'm not at all fading Donovan Mitchell. Garland's only 3 of 11. They were 14 of 47, 29.8% from 3, and yet they scored 126 and beat them by 20. When we look at the advanced kind of numbers here, it's 121 to a 101 offensive rating for Indiana. Indiana just absolutely went to absolute pot on offense. The Cavs played much better defense. They made a lot of tactical adjustments, and I'm going to do the film work on it today and probably have some more plays based off of that. But I also just look at this and I go, okay, Andrew Nembhard, only 9 shots, 4 of 9. Aaron Nesmith, only 7 shots, 3 of 7, 7 points. I'm going to be back on him in this game. McConnell was probably their best player in yesterday's game. Even like before we get to Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, who actually had a really good game, 18 points on 8 of 14. Before we get to Turner and Halliburton, the other guys I think are going to probably play better. Home spot, down, coming off the loss, chance to go up 3-1. I actually like the Pacers here. I'll be on Pacers plus 5.5 and the money line. I like Indy actually to win this game and go up 3-1. And then I might bet Cavs, depending on what the number is. But that's where I'm at, I think, for game 4.
So you and I are in lockstep with this Pacers in 6 bet, and if that's going to happen, I think it has to follow this very particular script where the Pacers win this game, the Cavs win the next game, and then obviously the Pacers would have to win in game 6. That feels like the most likely scenario. Will you be taking Pacers money line, because that is the rule here?
Yes. I will be on it, because I didn't do it last night. I disobeyed the Matt Mitchell rule. I only played the Nuggets on the spread and did not play the money line. Again, because I'm doing too much stuff and just forgot to get it in there and bet it. And yeah, I absolutely should have. It was a failure by me. I failed the Matt Mitchell rule. $5 fine for me, 2 buckets.
That's okay.
I'll absolutely
you can throw that $5 back on the Pacers money line here in game 4.
There you go.
I like Tyrese Halliburton over 17.5 points, and that would, I think, go in line with the thought that we're going to get a much better game from the Pacers. He was awful in game 3, a block shot early, missed floater, and then boom, there goes Halliburton, mentally checked out of the game after that. And then he declined to speak to the media after the fact. Greg Doyle from the Indy Star, I want to give him a proper shout out. He wrote a scathing article about him. I encourage you all to read it. Cliff Notes version, this is why Hallie was called the most overrated player in the NBA. So I dug into his game log to see what does Hallie do after a dud performance, because he has put up a number of them over the course of the season. From the start of this regular season until today, Halliburton has scored 10 points or less when playing at least 25 minutes, a total of 12 times. So he's done this 12 times. If you include game 3, he has scored more than 17.5 points, which is where the prop is set, on 9 of those 12 occasions, averaging 21 points per game after what I'm calling his duds. So this is a clear bounce back spot for Tyrese Halliburton over 17.5 points.
I like that. I can't really go too far on this one based off of, I have to go look at what the Cavaliers did with their coverage on Hallie. When it's the primary guys, I really have to dig in and be like, okay, because that's the guy who's at the top of the scouting report. That's who they shaped the most coverage around. I got to see what they did, whether they were switching, hedging, blitzing, because I was driving during that game. So I got to go back and do the or the first half of that game. I got to go back and do the film work on it, but I don't mind the play at all. You're believing in a bounce back spot here for Ty Jerome over 9.5 points.
I'm under 9.5 points. I am not on
Oh,
the
you
bounce
went the
back.
other way.
I'm going to
Under
continue the
9.5 points.
fade. He's been taken out of this series. He's too flat-footed to slow down the backcourt of the Pacers, especially if I think we're getting a bounce back from guys like Tyrese Halliburton. No matter who they throw at him, I think the fact that the Cavs got by without him in game 3 does not bode well for his overall minutes distribution. He's 2 of 22 from the field in his last 2 games, and his minutes are actually plummeting now. With Darius Garland back, if he's not giving you offense, you're not getting anything. I think the fade should continue. This is not a bounce back opportunity for him. I mean, it's an opportunity. I just don't think he's going to get it.
Just don't think he's going to get it. Donovan Mitchell over 10.5 field goal attempts seems obvious, but give me the cap.
Yeah. This was my go-to bet for Paolo Banchero in round 1, specifically targeting field goals rather than points. Now, Paolo was hitting both, and Donovan Mitchell could very well do that. I like field goals because the threshold for hitting the over is lower than points. You can go over independent on how fouls are being called because you're not baking in free throw attempts. It doesn't matter how often or if they get to the line. He has cleared this with ease in the first 3 games in this series, 14, 15, and 13. And in the first 2 games of the series, he wasn't even making his threes yet. I think this is going to be a closer game. Donnie shouldn't get taken out of the game, because I don't think this is going to be a blowout situation. So I'm not worried about minutes hampering his overall production. No one on the Pacers can really slow him down. So he could very well go for 40 again. I think that's set at plus 450. If you're even more confident in a Donovan Mitchell blow up, just go ahead and take him to do that. Take him to score 35. He's been an absolute monster, but the fact that I'm getting this over on Hard Rock Bet at plus 110 for him to have at least 11 field goals, I'm all over it.
Smart stuff. But if you got Hard Rock available, or he's at ESPN, I believe, as well, get in on that. A couple of props for me on this one.
For I'm sorry, but the part of the reason for the overall value aspect of it. So if I go to look at Donovan Mitchell points, okay, so now that's up to 30.5 points at minus 120. He's not getting the over on that without hitting 11 field goals. So there's no point in taking that prop and not the field goals prop if that one is available for you.
Smart. That's a good cap there. All right, so I'm on Benedict Mathurin points over. He's at 13.5. 19. He's at 11 in the game 1, 19 and 23. Carlisle has realized more and more in the series that he needs Mathurin and he needs his size and athleticism. That's their best counter to how Cleveland's lineups present. And Mathurin is very comfortable in this spot. He's a tough bucket getter. I think he'll continue to see a lot of minutes. I like him to go over 13.5 points. I should have played that in game 3. So I'm back on it in game 4. I'm back on it. Aaron Nesmith, 12.5 points. Here is the number. He only had 7. Don't care. Like he of all guys is probably the one that's going to have the biggest bounce back. He just never really got into the rhythm of that game. The offensive adjustments that Carlisle will make, Nesmith will have more opportunities. I'll have Nesmith over 12.5 points. I may have Nembhard. Let me do some more research on it today with the pick and roll coverage, and he might be another one I go back in on. Mobley over 30.5 PRA. He's going to play a ton of minutes. So he was the guy I thought was most likely to come back because it was just an ankle injury. You know, like everyone like really freaked out. Like, oh no, Darius. Oh, Evan Mobley. I'm like, Darius Garland's got turf toe. Run on it. That dude is in a lot of pain and really toughed it out yesterday. Hunter has that dislocated thumb, and I don't know what that's going to look like for his shooting going forward. Maybe he'll feel way better by the time that this game tips. But I was concerned about those guys way more than I was concerned about Evan Mobley. 30.5 PRA. There is actually at Hard Rock, there's a minus 105. You can get DraftKings, the more available book, at minus 110 on this. 32 in game 1 and 35 in game 3. He's got to play a ton. He plays a lot of. He's going to play in single big lineups, which means he's going to get the rebounds. He's a great passer. Like, this is Evan Mobley's breakout season. Somebody mentioned Donovan Mitchell ECF MVP. If they play, it depends on who you think they're going to play. Okay, like that would be my answer there. I like Mobley ECF MVP. I've bet him a couple different ways. I actually think he has a very good shot of winning this, regardless of whether he faces Boston or New York. Mobley, I think, can legitimately win Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Now, I'm also on like Derek White, right? So, like, I like these other guys to win the Eastern Conference. I don't do this for finals. I take the stars in the finals. Like, that to me is where the value is. Conference finals are a little bit different because these teams know each other better. Eastern Conference Finals MVP, Mitchell's plus 275. Garland is 30-1. Now, we're recording this before the Knicks game. Knicks Celtics. If the Celtics win, Mitchell's number gets better. If the Knicks win, Mitchell's number gets better because it's more likely for the Cavs to advance than the Celtics, and the Celtics are the only team that would be favored over the Cavs. I say this less to you if you're listening on a podcast to think things through when you're considering your timing on these bets of if you're going into Knicks Celtics and you're like, the Celtics are going to kill them, as one NBA player said last night that I heard in the 2 locker rooms that I went to. Well, not specify which player, but one player in one of the locker rooms was just like, Boston's going to beat their ass by 30. Now that's an NBA player, and I think they know better than us, but also it's a player that knows knows a lot about the league.
I would have said that game too, by the way, too. They probably would have said the exact same thing.
That's true. If you think Boston's gonna win by 30 in this game, then you should wait and bet Garland or not Garland, Mitchell. I keep saying Garland. Mitchell or Mobley after that game. If you think the Knicks are live to win the series, even if you think they're gonna lose, you should definitely bet it at some point, like based off of that. You should still probably bet it now because it's like, hey, I think the Knicks are going to win the series. I don't know how, but that needs to guide your thinking on this because of where the numbers will get to. But yeah, I like Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley is 15-1. I like him a little bit better than Donovan just because I think the good teams are going to be really not the good team. The Pacers are a good team, but they're in a much better position to send a lot of aggressive help at Donovan to try and disincentivize him. So.
I have a hard time putting money on the Cavs or the Celtics right now because one of those teams is not going to advance. But the history of the NBA, the percentages are so heavily tilted against those teams right now, and both of them are good enough to do it. I think one of them does and one of them doesn't, and I don't feel confident enough to tell you which one is going to make it happen.
All right. That's going to do it for buckets. We're all good here. Kravitz has Pacers, Cavs over 5.5 games, so he's playing that as his main. Like he's not messing with the side. He's got Tyrese Halliburton over 17.5 points, Donovan Mitchell over 10.5 field goal attempts, and Ty Jerome under 9.5 points. He's also got Thunder minus 5.5, Russ over 10.5 points. I'm on Indy plus 6 in the money line. Neesmith over 12.5 points. Mathurin over 13.5 points. Mobley over 30.5 PRA, the Thunder minus 5.5, and MPJ under 12.5 points. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. I love the crowds here on Saturday. We're gonna start promoting this a little bit more because I think that everybody's really enjoying these Saturday morning ones. Enjoy the games today. Should be great on Saturday. If you're listening on the podcast, enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Sunday night for Buckets Live, 10:30 Eastern. Check it out at youtube.com/The Action Network, as well as in your podcast shortly thereafter. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Till next time, get buckets.